Thank you so much, everyone, for joining this week's Virtuzone Academy Q&A. We're very delighted to see the great interest in this Q&A series that we launched earlier in July. We would like to thank the more than 200 people who have registered this week, and we will spend the next hour together with our panelist of experts answering all the questions that you have submitted to us in advance, as well as taking some questions from the audience in the chatter on the right-hand side of your screen. So once again, welcome and thank you so much for joining. I'll introduce the panelists that are with us today. We have Paul Bryson, who's our Director of Domestic Structuring. We have Louise Paris, who's our Company Information Manager, as well as Gary Thompson, who's our Business Development Manager. And Paul, why don't you start off with just saying a couple of words about yourself? I think we lost Paul's voice for just a minute. We will jump on to Louise. Then Louise, why don't you introduce yourself for a minute while Paul's voice comes back on?
Yeah, of course. Hello, everyone. I'm Louise Paris. So I am from France, and I have been working for Virtuzone for more than 4 years now.
Thank you, Louise. Gary, could you introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, I'm Gary Thompson. I've been working with Virtuzone now for 2.5 years. I primarily deal with mainland setups. I also now deal with all jurisdictions across the UAE, offshore setups. And previously, I was a UK solicitor, so I'm very interested in the legalities and the side agreements that we call risk mitigation packages and all the aspects that are involved with company formation.
And I think that my microphone is
good to have you on.
Working. Is that correct?
Could you say a couple of words about yourself, Paul?
Thanks. Yeah. So I'll go over it again. So I've been, of course, yeah. So I'm Paul Bryson. I'm the Director of Structuring here at Virtuzone. I've been here for the last 3 years at Virtuzone, and I've been structuring companies in Dubai for almost the last 10 years.
All right, let's kick off. We have a really exciting hour ahead of us. Lots of questions to be answered. Very great variety of questions as well. So thank you so much to everyone for submitting them. And yeah, we'll jump right into it. Paul, the first one is for you. Eldar is asking, how do you create business connections in the UAE? And I assume this is in order to grow your business. So how do you create business connections here the easiest?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And it's one that certainly I would think that the majority of our clients will ask us when they come here. Dubai and the UAE in general are probably a great place to harvest business connections. Most people will come here from their homeland. You know, the place is probably 92% of it is full of expats. So when you get here, technically you don't really know anyone on the ground. You don't have business connections like you do at home. So you kind of need to start afresh, almost from nothing. Now that's something that we would generally help our clients with. So when you set up a company here with us, we'll point you in the right direction, because we've got around 15,000 clients under our umbrella just now, separate companies. And we spend a lot of our time connecting Virtuzone clients to other Virtuzone clients. But you'll find a lot of support on the ground out with, say that Virtuzone umbrella. You'll find that there are a lot of kind of natural business networking groups here on the ground, and they'll be either sector specific. So if you're in oil and gas or education or healthcare, you'll find networking groups within your sector, and they'll be country specific as well. So almost every country that's represented here in the UAE has their own business council or business group. So you'll find like-minded individuals there to allow you to harvest and grow your business network. These are just kind of foundations and starting points for you. You might want to go and speak to Dubai Chamber. They'll certainly make the necessary introductions for you as well. And then you'll find a lot of free advice and free networking on social media. So on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, you'll find a lot of sector-specific networking there. So it's a very, very easy place to
Thank you so much for that, Paul.
Network.
The next question, Louise, is from Stella. She would like to know what she needs to do in order to operate a legal consultancy business in the UAE. So how will she set that up in the most efficient way possible?
So first of all, we need to understand if she owns an existing law firm in a foreign country. If it's the case, she can then set up a branch of this existing company, either in Dubai mainland or in a Dubai-based free zone. If it's not the case, if she is setting up this company by herself as being an individual shareholder, in this case, we would advise her to set up a company in a free zone that will be located in the Northern Emirates, because it's way easier to set up a business over there. She will need to have a law degree that will need to be attested. So it will need to be attested back home, but also here in the UAE. We can then advise her on what will be the best setup for her to set up her legal company here.
Thanks so much for that, Louise. And I can see a lot of questions are coming in the chat now. So thank you so much for that. Please keep them coming. We will get on to as many as we can throughout the Q&A today. Gary, the next one is for you. It's Hamoud that is asking, I want to open a restaurant. What are the procedures and how can you help me on that? And also, how can he carry out a project feasibility study?
Okay. For a restaurant, it will almost certainly have to be a mainland company. Most restaurants, even if they're located in the free zone, need to have a mainland license. And the mainland license is regulated in Dubai by Dubai municipality. There's certain health and safety and food hygiene requirements. There's a specific branch of Dubai municipality called Foodwatch. A restaurant needs to register with Foodwatch, needs to register food handlers, needs to upload the appropriate hygiene certificates for each of their staff. And when it comes to the restaurant itself, there's specified Dubai municipality standards. It needs to have certain extraction, it needs to have certain requirements for washing in the kitchen. And Dubai municipality assess how many persons can be in the restaurant, how many seats are allowed. So in almost all circumstances, it's a mainland company. There are limited exceptions, but for something like a restaurant, it's very, very important to get the correct advice at the outset, because if you do it wrong, it can be a very, very expensive mistake. And with a restaurant, it can be a branch of a foreign company. It can be a new company that's owned 100% you as 100% by you as a foreign owner, which a lot of people don't know. And it can also be a limited liability company, which is the more traditional setup with a local partner. And in terms of project feasibility study, I would recommend for that, and we have a lot of partners who can assist with this, but I would recommend that you deal with a management consultancy, or you deal with a firm that's actually specializing in feasibility study, because they can then go out and do the case studies, they can do the footfall investigations, and they can help you decide on which areas you want to have your restaurant located. And then once you have the correct area to have your restaurant located in, we also have a number of real estate partners who can assist you with actually finding the restaurant itself.
Thanks so much for that, Gary. I can see Stella is asking if we can repeat the explanation of how to set up a legal service business in the UAE. Stella, we will reach out to you offline to take you through the requirements. And we also will post a recording of this webinar online on YouTube later this week or early next week. But we will reach out to you separately and explain in more detail. Paul, Sishan, he wants to know if he has a service license issued by a free zone, for example, IT consulting, can he work with clients in the mainland?
Okay, that's probably not the $1 million question, but certainly one of the most commonly asked questions that we get is, how enforceable is it that a free zone company cannot trade outside of the free zone? Or can a free zone company trade with mainland companies? So there's a couple of ways of looking at it. Essentially, yes, if he's a service provider offering a consultancy service, he can have clients anywhere in the world. Okay, now that could be in the mainland of Dubai, or it could be in another country. If he's selling a physical good, like electronics or furniture, then you cannot trade that out with the free zone directly. You would need to go through a mainland company who would then act as your distributor. They would import the product from the free zone the same way they would from overseas, and then they would sell or distribute the products in the mainland. Now, if you're offering a consultancy service, you can offer it from your free zone, provided that you are not attending your client's office in the mainland to carry out the transaction. So if your services are taking place online, over the phone, or in the cloud, as long as the service is deemed given inside the free zone, you can do it there. So as long as you're allowed to transact inside the free zone, not outside the free zone. So if they come to you, it's fine. If
Thanks
you go
much
to them,
for that,
it's not
Paul.
fine.
Louis.
I hope that kind of clarifies that.
Okay, maybe we'll take that one later. For now, there's a very good question from Patricia Tavish. She posted in the chatter here on the webinar. She's asking the 9,995 dirham e-commerce package that are being advertised, what does that include? Louise, would you be able to answer that question?
Yes, of course. So this package is currently advertised on our website at 9,995. This is a package where you can set up a company for one shareholder and no visa allocation. So you will not be able to get any visa under this company. So this package is suitable for people who are currently employed and they want to set up a business on the side, or this package is suitable for someone who is under the sponsorship of a husband, for instance. So if you do need a visa under this package, we have another option. It will cost 19,995 plus VAT, and this includes a visa cost as well. So this package is from Fujairah Creative City Free Zone. So they have a list of activities mainly for consultancy in the field of media, marketing. They have a huge list of activities. So if you're interested in this package, let us know and we'll be able to get back to you on that.
Thanks so much, Louise. I have another question for you, actually. Leo is asking, there are so many free zones available in the UAE. Which one is the best fit for me? If you get that question, what would be your answer?
So there's more than 40 free zones in the UAE. So it will really depend of your business plan, your business model. So we will need to understand first the activity that you will be conducting, because every free zone have their own list of activities. So for instance, you have some free zones specialized in media, like Media City in Dubai. So we will need to understand as well the number of visa that you will need. We will need to understand the number of shareholders, if you need a physical office or not, and your budget as well. So according to all those points, we will then be able to advise you what will be the suitable option for you.
Thank you so much for that. Gary, we have a question from John T. He's asking, they would like to set up a business in Dubai. The operation is into trading of corporate gifts and uniforms. Along with it, they will be having a boutique outlet in Dubai for ladies' dresses and tailoring. What are his options for establishing a business here?
Okay, so to set up with those trading activities in mainland Dubai and have a shop, you need to have a trading license. Now, lots of people think that the best thing to do in these circumstances is to go for a general trading license. But a general trading license is very expensive, and a general trading license also has issues for bank account. Often there's a very, very high maintaining balance required, and there's a lot more security checks, etc., because general trading as an activity in the past has been abused. Now, it's actually quite a good group of activities because all of those activities, all of those items, the gifts, the garments, they can all be included on one license because they are in one activity group as defined by the DED. So the DED have multiple activity groups, and on a DED mainland license, you can have up to 10 activities. So you could have clothing trading, you could have gifts trading, you could have garments trading. You can add all of those activities onto one license. And the benefit is that you then avoid the extra expense and the extra consequences of having a general trading license. The only thing that you might have a slight difficulty with, but it depends on the context of the question, is tailoring. As a trading company, you can't offer tailoring as a service. You would need to have a separate service license for that. But if you mean that you're simply wanting to trade tailored goods that have been tailored for women, then that would fall under clothing trading.
Thank you, Paul, Gary. John, I hope this answered all your questions. Now I've created a small poll that I'm publishing now. You will see it in the chatter. We would like to know from everyone who's on the Q&A today, if you're looking to start a business or if you already own one. Please mark the answer that applies to you, and we'll get back with the results later on today. Paul, there was a question from Mohammed, who's on the Q&A today as well. He's asking, he's heard that the free zone companies, it's extremely hard to open bank accounts if you have a free zone company. And what's our advice when it comes to that?
Yeah, okay. I think there's a misconception around that. It's pretty easy and straightforward to open bank accounts for free zone companies, provided that the company has got some substance behind it. When you open a bank account, the banks here follow regulations from the Central Bank of the UAE, and there'll be some bare minimum requirements and KYC and due diligence that they have to carry out and information they have to know on the company. But if the company is established in the UAE, all free zones here are credible, and it has an office lease agreement or at least a registered business address, and as long as one of the shareholders has a UAE residence visa, these are the kind of basic requirements. And if that person's not from a high-risk country as well, then it's very easy and straightforward to open the bank account. As long as you can find a good relationship manager at one of the banks, then you'll be absolutely fine with that. But I think that, Christian, I can maybe jump in. There was another question as well I noticed on the chatter where we were asked about opening companies for Iraqis in Dubai. Did you see that question? I think it ties in quite well. I think it ties in quite well because, again, that's another kind of misconception. There are a lot of high-risk nationalities here, and it can be difficult to open to open the company or the bank account for these people. It's much easier to open a company than it is a bank account. That's for sure. If you're an Iraqi, typically it can be difficult. However, there are parameters that can be met in order to get that company set up. It's much easier to have a company established in Dubai for an Iraqi than it is in any of the other Emirates. And if that person either currently lives in Dubai or is in Dubai or has had or has a UAE residence visa inside their passport, then it's much easier to get the company set up for that person. If they're in Iraq, have never been here, don't have a UID number or have ever entered the country, it's much more difficult. But it's not impossible.
Sounds good. I hope that answered Zainab's question. Louise, Anshu would like to know, what's the process for starting a home-based baking business where I can take orders for baking and supply products from my house? Do I need a professional certificate of baking? I live in Dubai.
So I know there's a lot of people doing this, but unfortunately, it's not legal in the UAE to set up a home kitchen business. So you will have two options. Option number one is to set up your own kitchen. So you will need a mainland license for that, and you will need to get an approval from Dubai municipality. There's a second option as well, is to set up a company in a free zone under food and beverage trading company or catering services company, and you can use a cloud kitchen. I know there's a lot of cloud kitchen right now who are actually operating in Dubai, so this could be a suitable option as well.
Thanks so much for that, Louise. Gary, there was a question in the chatter about the Dubai Dream license. It's from Kieran that we are currently offering. Could you tell Kieran a bit more about that license, what it includes?
Yeah, thank you, Kieran, for that question. The Dubai Dream license is a new product that we've launched in conjunction with a new free zone called KitLab. The free zone is very quirky, and it is based on the Queen Elizabeth II ship in Port Rashid. So when you get your trade license and when you're giving out your address to clients or prospective clients, your physical address attached to the business will be on the ship that used to belong to the Queen. That's currently based in Port Rashid. The license that you get with the Dubai Dream license is essentially the same as any other free zone. Each has its own rules and regulations, but the real benefit of the Dubai Dream license is that it's a Dubai license, and the cost is very competitive with the Northern Emirate free zones. Normally in Dubai, you pay a huge premium. It's often double the cost to have your company set up in Dubai versus having your company set up in Fujairah or Ras Al Khaimah. And lots of people are very, very keen to have a Dubai visa. They don't want to have a Fujairah visa. They don't want to have a Ras Al Khaimah visa. They want to have a Dubai visa. But part of the reason that that's often difficult is the initial cost. So the Dubai Dream license is a new product that we've launched. It's a very, very affordable rate. It competes with the free zones in the other Emirates of Dubai, and is very flexible in terms of activity and in terms of what you can do with the license. So you do have the potential to attract more customers and better quality customers often when you do have a license that's from Dubai versus having a license from other jurisdictions. And with this new partnership, we can actually offer you the license at the most cost-effective rate in Dubai. Even the free zone themselves cannot give you the price that we are offering at the moment. So the promotion is running to the 31st of August. It's very, very exciting. And it's not often that you can go to a supplier like Virtuzone, get the services and benefit of using Virtuzone, and actually pay less than you would going directly to the free zone. So it's really a win-win situation for everyone.
Thank you so much for that, Gary. And if anyone is interested in knowing more about the Dubai Dream license, then I have posted a link at the top of the chatter that will take you directly there. So yeah, please go and have a look if you're interested in knowing more. Gary, I have another question from you from Mohammed. He would like to know all the categories which could be accepted for a local services manager, not local partner. And he would also like to know more about freelancing in the UAE.
Okay, so this is a question ultimately about company structure, and it relates to the mainland. So when you set up a mainland company, you can have a sole establishment, which is a company that's owned by one foreign person. It can be held by a UAE national, but it's not often that would be the case. Then you can have a limited liability company. A limited liability company is where the foreign investors can own 49% of the company, and the local partner or the corporate the corporate local partner holds 51% of the license. Or you can have a branch of a foreign company which is an extension of a company that exists in another jurisdiction. Finally, you can have what's called a representative office. Now, when you want to have a local partner, when you need to have a local partner, it's when the license is a commercial activity. So a commercial activity would be, for example, any trading activity. And the DED has a list, and either an activity is commercial or it's professional. So a good example of a professional license is a restaurant. So with a restaurant, you can have a sole establishment with a local service agent, or you can have an LLC, or you can have a branch of a foreign company. With a trading company, it's not possible to have a branch of a foreign company, and you must have a local partner. So when you talk to us about what you want to do, we will identify the appropriate activity. We can tell you whether it's professional or whether it's commercial, and we can then guide you on whether you want to have a local service agent or whether you want to have a local partner. So really, it depends on the company structure, is the short answer to the question. Yes.
Can I jump in on that, Gary, and ask you? You said there that if it was a restaurant, it can be either, did you say professional or commercial, or it could be a sole establishment?
It's always professional, as I'm sure you know, yeah? But it's always professional, but you can have a professional limited liability company.
Right. And why would you want to have that versus the sole establishment? So why would you have someone own 51% of the shares?
The name gives it away. So with a sole establishment, you have personal liability. With a limited liability company, you have limited liability. So any claims or wrongs against the company in the future, they are limited to the share capital and the assets of the business. So if, for example, someone was to sue your business for 2 million dirhams, your share capital and your money in the bank was 300,000 dirhams, then the most that could be claimed against you is that 300,000 dirhams. Whereas if you had a sole establishment and someone sued you successfully for 2 million dirhams, you personally are liable for the 2 million dirhams. So you have much more legal protection in terms of the limited liability company. And with the corporate local partner structure and the risk mitigation package that goes alongside that, the risk of a local partner is mitigated to virtually nothing. Whereas the risk of someone pursuing you and your insurance company not paying out, or you being personally liable, is a much, much greater risk. So generally, I would always advise that you go for a limited liability company if it's possible.
All right. Louise, we have a question here on the chatter. I'm not going to say the name because it was sent in private, but this person would like to know that if he or she sets up an e-commerce business here, will he or she have to inform the current employer, or can the business be set up on the side?
So there's a lot of free zone not asking for a non-objection certificate from your employer. So we are able to target those free zones, and your employer will not have to know that you have a business on the site. So it is possible.
Thanks so much for that. I'm sure there's a lot of people asking that question these days. Now I want to draw your attention again to the poll. Go ahead, Paul.
I think on that one, sorry, Christian, I was going to say, on that particular question, sometimes there might be a moral obligation to inform your employer if you're going to be doing something out with your job, because you have to ask yourself, is it right that you should be working, when you're brought here into the country and sponsored by someone, is it okay to kind of subsidise your living? And there's always been a big kind of argument over that for a long time. Is it legal to do so? And there hasn't been any issues with it whatsoever, but I think often there is a moral obligation depending on the relationship that you've got with your employer.
Thanks so much for adding that, Paul. I just want to draw all your attention again to the poll that we created earlier today. on how many of the people who are on the webinar right now are looking to start a business or already own a business. What I can see right now is that 79% of everyone here are looking to start a business, 14% already own a business, 5% neither. So there's a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs on the Q&A today, which is amazing. Paul, there's a long question here from actually multiple questions here from Wessel and Maurice. The first one is, on average, how long does it take to register a business in the UAE?
Okay, well, that would then depend on which jurisdiction you are in and the legal form of the company and who are the shareholders in the company. So is it one individual person? Is it multiple corporate entities? Because that would add time. The quickest you could probably set a company up to 24 hours. The longest could be kind of up to 6 months, depending on if it's some sort of heavily regulated activity with a lot of shareholders. Generally, corporate shareholders, that could take up to 6 months. So anywhere between that. But common free zone company, the most common thing that we would set up, let's say to set the company up and have kind of one visa processed, you're looking kind of anywhere between kind of 3 and 6 weeks.
The next question from Vessel is, what is the difference between a mainland LLC and a free zone? And also, what is the difference in cost between those two types of company setups?
Okay, yeah, I mean, we could talk about that for the entire length of this webinar. Let's say we can certainly reach out to Vessel offline as well, but the kind of short answer to this would be a mainland company can do business anywhere within that emirate that it's licensed. A free zone company can only conduct commercial activity inside the free zone. Okay, it can't trade outside the free zone. They're the kind of key differences. Free zone companies are good if you're going to be based here and going to do business in the rest of the region or other parts of the world. But if you want to be a force here on the ground, then a mainland company is going to be taken a little bit more serious if it bids on local contracts or government tenders. And then you asked me another question.
What's the difference in cost between a free zone company? Yeah, the difference in cost between a free zone and a mainland company.
Yeah, so sure, right. Well, I would say that, again, that varies emirate to emirate. I mean, yes, there's a big difference between the cheapest free zone setup in the Northern Emirates versus a basic mainland setup in Dubai. For sure, it can be double. But a Dubai free zone company versus a Dubai mainland company, the prices are very much aligned now. In the past, I would say kind of 5 years, 7 years ago, you would have found that a mainland company was way more expensive than a free zone. But now you'll find they're very much aligned, and that often it makes more sense to set up a Dubai company because it opens more doors for you rather than setting up a Dubai free zone company. So I would tend to kind of always look at the mainland as the stock option, unless there's a reason for a free zone. And the usual reason would be that free zone in particular is themed or sector specific, and all your customers are going to be based there, and you need to be there. Apart from that, I would tend to look at
Thanks so much for that, Paul. And Wessel and Maurice, I know you had a few other questions, but we'll reach out to you separately to answer them. And also just want to apologize, Gary had to leave the Q&A, but he will, due to technical issues, but we'll be back on again within the next couple of minutes. Louise Hasnain has a question. What initiatives are available for new companies from the government in regards to license and setup fees? I think Hasnain probably are referring to the stimulus packages and so on that have been released recently due to COVID-19.
Yes, so with the current situation, most of the free zone have launched a lot of new packages with a lot of discounts. Rakez is a perfect example. They have launched new packages. For the former packages, you have additional discounts. They're offering an investor visa free of charge. You can combine multiple activities on the one same license. So Free Zone understood that entrepreneur will need to set up a company, and with the current situation, they made a lot of efforts for entrepreneur, which is very a good thing. So yeah, I would say most of the Free Zone discounted their price, which is amazing.
And then just to add on to that, not only the free zones, but even the local companies set up in the mainland. So in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, the DED in both Emirates have made changes. Abu Dhabi DED are now issuing you a license for 2 years instead of 1 year, for pretty much the same cost. Dubai DED are allowing you to spread payments over 12 months for license, and they're allowing you to obtain a license without the need for an office space, which you did need before. So as the government in general here have implemented a really, really attractive stimulus package. And what we would say to any of you guys that are considering setting up is, I haven't seen a better time in the last 10 years where it's been more competitive, cost-wise to set up your business. Because what you find is that even though it's one country, the Emirates are competing with each other, and each free zone is competing with each other to win your business as well. And it can be difficult for you to kind of go around and find out where the best deal is. But that's where someone like us comes in. Come and see us, have a chat, and we'll narrow it down to a couple of options for you. And then you're under no obligation to establish the company with us, but you'll find that it probably doesn't cost you much.
Thanks for that, Paul. Gary, are you with us again?
I am indeed, I am.
That is great, because I have a question for you. Zainab has. She says she has a translation business in Iraq, and she has been in Dubai many times. Actually, that's not a question. That's Zainab says that she has a translation business in Iraq. She has come to Dubai many times before, and she will for sure set up her business in Dubai soon with Virtuzone. So thanks so much for that, Zainab. It's much appreciated. Here's an actual question for you, Gary. It's from Selwyn. Can you let us know what are the limitations of a representative office for an IT services company?
Yeah, I think I've seen Selwyn ask quite a few questions, so I took some notes on that, and it's quite appropriate that it's about IT services when my laptop just decided to restart itself. So Selwyn had asked about opening a branch of a foreign company, what were the limitations, and also asked about a representative office. So a branch is an extension of the parent company. It's not a new legal entity. It's the same legal entity as the parent. It has a license in Dubai or Abu Dhabi or in the free zone, but it's not separated, and it has unlimited liability to the parent company. But it's operational. So it can carry out work, it can bill, it can invoice, it can provide physical services if it's based in the mainland. But ultimately, for tax regulations, for corporate governance, it's the same entity as the parent company. Separately, you can have what is called a representative office. And you'll probably hear most about representative offices on the radio. You'll hear adverts about banks being here, and then there'll be a disclaimer saying that they're a representative office. They can only provide sales and marketing services for the parent company. And that is the answer. A representative office can only generate leads, can generate sales, and pass them to the parent company. The sales and marketing office, the representative office, cannot contract, cannot close a sale, cannot receive funds for a sale. It can only have operations here, essentially for business development. And I think there was another question from Lee, which is quite relevant just to tie it all in together. Lee had asked about having a corporate shareholder, what's the attestation and notarization requirements? And that's a very, very good question. And it ties into branch, it ties into representative office. When you use a document in the UAE from a foreign company, it needs to be what I call and what others refer to as super legalized. The document needs to go through a 6 or 7 stage process to allow it to then be used in the UAE. So if you're a foreign company and you're wanting to set up in the UAE, you should always factor in approximately 4 to 6 weeks extra on top of the setup time to have your documents in order and ready to be used in the UAE. They need to, it's similar to anyone who's had an education certificate or a degree or a birth certificate attested. It needs to go through this multiple stage process to be recognized in the UAE and officially used in the UAE. And we can help with that. I used to carry out this service personally in the UK. I used to notarise true copies of documents. I used to then send it to the Foreign Commonwealth Office in the UK, the UE Embassy, then send it to the UE. But now what we can do is we can organise the logistics overall for you so that we can take the document from you in Dubai, we can pass it to a partner. The partner will take it through the various countries that it needs to go to and bring it back to Dubai ready to be used. And that service is invaluable because if there's any mistakes, any delays, then you need to start again. And that eats into your timeline and could potentially cost you money.
Thanks a lot for that, Gary. Paul, there's a question from a person in the audience, which I think is a question that a lot of people would like to ask. It's basically, does direct selling items like clothes and handicrafts on a WhatsApp group need a license? So if you're just selling products, in a WhatsApp group, would he need a license to run that business?
Well, the short answer to that is yes. If you're going to conduct any sort of commercial activity inside the UE, you will need some sort of license or permit to do so legally. Unless you're personally selling a second-hand good on a kind of second-hand website, for example, then you don't need to do that. But if you're going to be regularly selling goods here, then of course you will need some sort of license or permit. You might think it's just the smallest thing and you don't need it, but by all means, reach out to us and we can help point you in the right direction.
Thanks so much for that, Paul. Louise, the next question is from Carmen. She would like to open an online business, an online flower shop, and she would like to know how she go about that. Can she be a freelancer? Does she need a license? Does she need to rent an office space? Can she do it in a free zone, or where should she do it?
So first of all, a freelance license will not be suitable for her because when you get a permit as a freelancer, you have to select from activities related to media, education, and IT. So selling flowers is not part of those activities. So she will have the option to set up a free zone company or a mainland company. We will advise her to set up a mainland company because it will give her the ability to expand her business later on if she wants to open her own shop. As of now, if she wants to, she can only operate her online website and then later on get her own flower shop. Being a florist here in the UAE will require Dubai municipality approval. If she wants to as well, she can set up in a free zone, but it will be a drop shipping model. So it means that she will need to partner up with a distributor or an existing florist to sell her flowers online.
And can I just step in just about the freelancing point? I recall that Mohammed actually asked me about freelancing in an earlier question, but I didn't get to the answer. Freelancing is a good concept in the UAE, but what people need to be aware of is it's very, very limited. It can be problematic for banking because you receive transactions into your personal bank account, which the bank then deem commercial transactions. And we've seen many cases where a freelancer has had their bank account frozen because they're carrying out commercial transactions in a personal bank account. And at the moment, the freelancer permit is almost the same cost as some of the options that are on the market for a free zone company. Ras Al Khaimah are doing a fantastic deal at the moment where you can set up your business, you can get a free visa, and it's actually cheaper than having a freelance visa. You have a company, you can invoice, you can deal with foreign companies. It's just not worth taking the limitations. Although it sounds like a good concept, I would generally try and put people off having a freelance license at all. Normally, it would be cheaper, but at the moment it's not. So there isn't any benefit to having a freelancer license versus having a company.
Yeah, I would second that. I would definitely try and steer people away from the freelancer permits. They sound great and the idea is, it's pretty good, but there's absolutely no benefit versus having that than having a company. you always even look at the kind of cheapest, most cheerful setup in another emirate. It's far better than having a freelancer.
Thanks for that, Paul and Gary. We have 13 minutes left, and thanks so much for posting all your questions in the chatter. We will try and get around to as many of them as possible. The ones we won't be able to answer today, we will reach out to you separately this week to help you answer those questions. Paul, Patricia Tavish has a good question for you. She's asking, what happens if I have a registered company in the UK? Will we be able to do business in the UAE, or do we need to register in the UAE as well?
Yeah, that is a good question. It doesn't even need to be UK specific. That can be anywhere in the world. But the long and short is, yes, you can do business from other countries here, but you're less likely to be successful than if you have a legal commercial presence here. So gone are the days, I think, where companies could do business here on a fly-in, fly-out basis. I would say that your competition is likely to be here. They're going to be established and they're going to have a presence. So the choice now here in the UAE, when people are looking for vendors, is huge. So we tend not to look abroad for any service. I don't think that we would be the same, Christian. We would not look abroad for any supplier to Virtuzone. We would find everything that we need here in the UAE. In the past, that wouldn't have been the case. Definitely, you would have been able to conduct your business on that fly-in, fly-out basis, as we call it. But you really need to have a legal commercial presence on the ground with some foot soldiers here, someone that can go around and do a bit of business development for you. Or as Gary was talking about a rep office earlier, having someone here who's just a face for your business, who can go and deal with your customers and speak to them if they're having any problems. It just gives them that little bit of security. And if you're bidding or tendering on any sort of kind of contract, or you're on any procurement list, you're more likely to be successful with a UAE trade license rather than being a company from abroad. So you're less likely to even be on a procurement list now. Perhaps 5-10 years ago that would have been easy, but you need a presence now. That's something we can help you with. I mean, come and see us, reach out to others, do your research on the ground here before you set up, before you do anything. But I would say, yes, you want to have a presence on the ground.
And I've got a good example for that. What you often find, or what clients often find, is that they're submitting tenders, they're tendering for work, they're tendering for projects, they're tendering for the sale of goods, and the tenders keep getting rejected. One of the most common examples is if you're dealing with ADNOC, which is the oil and gas authority in Abu Dhabi. Even though they say that they will accept tenders from all types of companies, they will accept it from foreign companies, they will accept it from local companies. There's actually a predetermined list of criteria that they have that gets you priority in their system. For example, you must have an Abu Dhabi company. The company should be a mainland company, and you should have Special Petroleum Council approval. So lots of people find that they're spending lots and lots of time tendering for work, trying to win business, but you're already ahead of your competitors if you're here. Occasionally, if you have a very, very unique product, something that they cannot get locally, then yes, you can win business. Yes, they will contract with you. But as Paul said, that's becoming more the exception rather than the rule. And also having a company here, it puts you in a much better legal standpoint. If you contract with a company here, you deliver a product or you deliver services, and then you have issue with payment, it's much more difficult to raise a legal case in the UK than it is to raise the legal case on the ground. And you're much less likely to win the case if you raise it in the UK versus raising it here. So it's all about minimizing the risk and protecting yourself, as well as giving you the best chance to do business.
But rather than dive in and set up a company remotely, come here, see the place if you don't know it, come and meet potential customers, even speak to competitors on the ground. Before you make that decision, don't just kind of dive in at the deep end. I would say always encourage you to do your research.
Thanks for that, guys. Gary, I have another question for you, or Zainab actually has. She just posted it in the chatter. Do you provide options for office location? So I guess Zainab would like to know, can we help her out with an office space if she needs that for her business?
Yes, so having an office space is one of the most important parts of your business. Now lots of people are looking for virtual office, or they're looking for small setups to test the market and then to expand. But there are also larger operations that need to come here and need to have office space. Now at Virtuzone, we have a very, very good ecosystem. We have partners that are experts in all the different branches of the company setup process or the company operations that you will have. When it comes to office space, we have partners in we have real estate partners who can provide you with the most suitable locations, the most suitable options. If you're looking for basic options, then we can assist with that. But what we try to do is we try to make sure that each step of the process that you deal with, you deal with an expert in that particular field. So for company formation, for visas, for bank account assistance, for basic accounting, for basic marketing, growing your business, etc., then Virtuzone can help. But when it comes to something specialist, like looking for a particular office in GLT or looking for a particular office in Media City, then we have the real estate partners who can look after you on that front and provide you with better options, rather than you just being limited to what a particular company can offer you.
Yeah, we'll really offer a full kind of turnkey solution on that, and that you can only deal with us. But perhaps if you need a bit of help, we can outsource part of that to experts, because by no means are we real estate experts here. So we would definitely work with our partners to find you an office, but we could remain that point of contact for you, just to make it a lot easier than you having to contact 5 or 6 different people for different things.
Right, Louise, Talal has a question. She has posted in the chatter. We are registered as an HR consultancy doing training and recruitment. If we wish to move to a travel consultancy instead, what should they do?
So first of all, we'll have to check what type of license do you have. So if you're based in Free Zone or in mainland, then we'll investigate to see if the license, the activity that you want is actually available where you are registered. Then if the activity is available, we'll have to do an amendment of your existing license to remove or to add the activity that you want under your license. So the first step will be to share your existing trade license with us.
I'll jump in a little bit on that as well. Recruitment consultancy is always one of these kind of hot topics, and always has been. Tend to find that a lot of recruitment agents or recruitment consultancies will set up as an HR consultancy because it's cheaper. But in reality, you're not allowed to offer recruitment services under an HR consultancy license in most Emirates. So there are certain free zones in Dubai where if you are issued an HR consultancy license, it will say next to that, in brackets, this does not include recruitment. Recruitment services should be set up in the mainland of Dubai, and it does bring with it a premium. There's a 1 million dirham government bond to be purchased there relating to that particular activity. But people will always try and find a way around about it. And there are some workarounds, but you have to make sure that you get it right. So you need to speak to the right people to get that done. Don't just jump in and think that HR consultancy is fine, and then finding yourself getting a bit of a slap on the wrist further down the line for doing something.
Thanks for that input, Paul. There's another question I want to ask you. One of the participants today would like to know, is asking, could you please advise on what sort of license I should obtain to carry out activities such as building inspections and issuing of warranties for works?
So
did I catch you off guard?
Throwing that question up? No, not at all. Not at all. It's fine. It's very much a technical question. It's in depth. But yeah, for that type of thing, both are separate, right? They're not almost kind of related activities. What we would do for something like that is we would have to look at who you are, what your experience is, because if you're going to be able to carry out these inspections in Dubai, you need to be licensed in the mainland. You need to be approved by Dubai municipality, and that would mean, you and us would go there, would sit and meet someone at Dubai municipality. You send one of your technical people there, and we have a conversation with the municipality about the services that you're going to offer. They will then tell you the correct activity for that. But you will need to have some sort of experience, and it will be hefty. It will not be, oh, I've just graduated from university and I think I can do this. You will need to have experience in that, and you need to show them that experience via documentation and what you've got. So that's something that we can help you with. That can be a bit of a process. It can be a bit laborious, but we can get that done. And if you want, we can certainly reach out to you offline to discuss that.
Thanks
and how
for
you
that,
do the setup.
We have 3 minutes left, but Louise, there's a very good question here from Yasid that's saying, how is Virtuzone coping with the current travel restrictions? How can we help clients set up businesses, open bank accounts if they cannot travel to UAE at the moment? Is that possible at all? What can be done?
So it's a very good question because it was quite difficult to enter in the UAE. Now tourists are now able to travel again in the UAE. So we could start the company process from you being outside of the country, and you will then be able to travel in the country to do your visa process. And once your visa is issued, we will then be able to organize a meeting with the bank to open your corporate bank account. So now it's getting way better to set up your business and set up your corporate bank account because UAE borders are now opened again.
That's good to hear.
And there's still, I know we're short of time, but there's still some jurisdictions that are allowing a lot more of the process now to be completed remotely than was allowed before. Some jurisdictions, you sign the documents, you send them by post, you can have the license issued. Some are adopting Zoom calls or webinars, etc., to verify your identity and then issue your license. So it's actually more convenient at the moment to set up a company than it was before, because you potentially only need to make one trip rather than having to make two separate trips to open the bank account. What's always been a stumbling block is you need to have your visa processed before you can then open the bank account. That's the case for most banks. But at the moment, we can set up your license, we can start the visa process, and then you can come here to finalise it and open the bank account in one trip. So it's one of the few positives that have come out of the current situation, and hopefully the free zones continue to adopt the real practical and beneficial options that they have in place now.
Thanks, Gary. We are almost out of time, but Linda has just posted a very good question in the chatter. Louise, this kind of touches upon, I think, what you mentioned earlier about drop shipping. But Linda is asking, can I set up a garment manufacturing company in a free zone? And if yes, if we can share more details on the drop shipping system as well that you mentioned earlier.
So you could potentially set up a manufacturing business in a free zone, but you will need your warehouse, your factory, to be located inside the same free zone. So for instance, if you want to be based in Jebel Ali free zone, your physical warehouse will have to be located in Jebel Ali. So then you can appoint a distributor company who will be selling your physical products to the UAE local market. So in this way, it's possible to set up your business in a free zone.
Thanks for that, Louise. We are out of time. I would like to thank everyone who signed up for the Q&A, who participated today. I know we couldn't get around to all the questions. The ones we didn't have time to answer today, we will reach out to you directly. Please stay tuned for the upcoming Q&As. We are doing 2 a month on various subjects. So far, it has been all about starting your business, but we will touch upon insurance, second citizenship, a lot of different topics as we get on. So please do follow us on social media. We will publish the recording of the Q&A today on our YouTube channel. So please go and subscribe and turn on the notifications so you are notified whenever the video is uploaded. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to our team. They are available 24/7 on live chat, on phone. If you go to our website, vz.ae, you'll find all the different ways to get in touch with us. So again, thank you so much for being part of the Q&A today. We really appreciate it, and we hope to see you next time. Take care.
Thank you.